How do East and West philosophies compare to one another? Before there was ever the idea of a one true God, there was polytheism, the belief in a multitude of gods. This evolved into the idea of the pantheon, or a group of ruling deities who controlled and commanded all the rest. As science progressed, such as it was, the few gods, describing more universal traits or elements, came to rule over the many gods, describing the local, regional, or national deities who stood as symbols for the first city-state empires. However, ultimately, this situation was reversed in an event called the Titanomachy, or War in Heaven. In the era of the earliest Babylonian Empire in the Levant, the national gods came to supplant in importance the elder elemental deities. From this event came the rise of monotheism, as Abraham left Ur in direct protest against Babylon's national god, Marduk, and established Enlil, the elemental god of the sky and nominally Marduk's uncle, as his Elohim, or chosen deity. Until this point, note, all the populated lands of Earth had shared the same basic belief in a pantheon of plural deities, some local, most elemental, who all more or less shared power over the fates and fortunes of all mankind together. Then, around 500 BC in the Orient, Buddha was born, and in the Occident, Pythagoras was born. While both shared the long-established belief in reincarnation of the soul, Buddha's teachings dwelt mostly on ethics and his eightfold path leading to enlightenment as transcendence from life's suffering. But Pythagoras, called the first philosopher in the West, began the study of number and music theories and started the trend of examining maths and sciences recreationally. In many respects, the values of Buddhism did not enter the Levant until the teachings of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount were canonized in the Latin Vulgate New Testament Gospels. While claimed to be the son of the monotheist God of Abraham, Jesus taught essentially identical moral values to Buddha some 500 years later. But rather than founding a successful school for thousands of students, as Buddha did, Jesus' efforts were, supposedly, met with his torture and crucifixion. It remains an interesting historical footnote to ponder if the ethical teachings of Jesus would have been more acceptable to a predominantly polytheist audience, as were Buddha's, and if Jesus' teachings did not fall on deaf ears, as it were, solely due to the region's monotheism. While Buddhism spread across India, excuse me, while Buddhism spread across Asia, the Catholic Papacy struggled to find a way to enforce Christ's golden rule. The confusion and irony of monotheism had already polluted Jesus' teachings to such an extent that, prior to the discovery of the Americas by Europeans, Judeo-Christian values had come to be synonymous with the Inquisition. Perhaps for this reason, China had become xenophobic and erected a massive wall to separate themselves from Western influence. It was not until Christendom had fully manifested its destiny with westward expansion that the ideas of Buddhism were again infused into Western civilization. It was even only as recently as the early 20th century that many of Buddha's teachings became available in English translation for the first time. This, coupled with the rediscovery of the Essene Qumran scrolls and the Gnostic Nag Hammadi library codices has led to the theosophical syncretism of modern globalist religions into, effectively, monism, the belief in a one true God that is purported to be common to all theisms of any kind.